Before noon, Lindsay Burak, James Carlisle, and Yasmin Thomas met at James Carlisle's apartment to discuss the merits of a recent detective video game. In secret, Andrew Blythe had set up 3 microphones, and so their conversation was recorded. Today on the Netflix Gaming Club, the case of the Golden Idol. Welcome to the Netflix Gaming Club. It's a book club for video games where for the next 4 weeks, we'll be playing the best games that are available right now for free on your phone with a Netflix subscription. I'm James Carlisle.
I'm Lindsay Burak.
And I'm Yasmin Thomas.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 7.
Woo.
I've got a secret.
Reveal thyself.
So, as we all know, if you flip over one of the Netflix Gaming Club episodes, there's a B-side in which we do recommendations.
Yes.
But this episode, if you flip it over a second time, has a secret C-side. On today's C-side of the episode, not C-section, that was the original name, but I didn't like it so much.
You thought about it a little more.
I thought about it a little more. C-side seemed more calming and peaceful. On the C-side today, we're going to be talking about spoilers for this week's game. What we're going to do is we're going to have a regular game discussion, and then we're going to go into our B-sides and do our usual wrap-up, talk about the next game we're going to play. But instead of going to credits, we're going to go into our C-section where we talk about spoilers.
C-side.
C-section?
I did it! See? See?
Everyone picture scalpels right now immediately.
Oh, God.
So, yes, if you've played the game, continue on with us. And if you haven't, birth yourselves in our C-section out from our episode, because this is a great game and we don't want to spoil anything, but we do want to talk about it. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go on to the case of the Golden Idol. The Case of the Golden Idol is a point-and-click puzzle game. I'd call it an investigation game. They call it a detective game. They being Color Gray Games, the developer. It was published by PlayStack. It was originally released in October 2022 and came to Netflix in June 2024. In The Case of the Golden Idol, you follow the titular idol through a series of 2D pixel art vignettes depicting the various murders the idol inspires. By investigating the scenes of each death, collecting documents and various clues along the way, you must determine the method, culprit, and often the motive of each crime. I have to say, when I first loaded this game up, I thought it looked insane. I had been looking forward to this game for weeks, for months. I had no idea what it looked like. And then you load it up and just the bug-eyed faces on the menus. Oh my God.
It is the most expressive art style I think we've seen. Like, everybody's got their eyes popping out. There's so much emotion. It's not even, it's very two-dimensional. It's drawings. It's not...
It's almost like caricatures.
Yes.
Yes,
People.
caricatures was what I figured. And all the faces are so distinct.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You can really track characters between scenes.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeating characters, and between scenes you'll be like, oh, I know who this person is. I remember them from the last chapter. Or
sometimes you go, I remember what they looked like alive.
Well, we'll get into that. When I described the aesthetics of this game as being a pixel art Rococo nightmare.
I mean, pixel art, yes. Rococo, not quite the correct period, but that's my vestigial art school education.
No, please. So this game takes place in the 18th century, right?
Yeah.
In the 1700s, mostly in Europe. When is the Rococo period? Is that the 16th
Well, it's not that
century?
it's not quite overlapping. It's that Rococo is very about frills and
nature.
gaudiness and nature for sure, beauty. Think The Swing. That's one of the most classic Rococo paintings.
Yeah.
This one is, I don't have the word for it because I didn't brush up on my art history, despite still never being able to resell that textbook.
The game, as we've said, is pixel art in its art style, and the music is similarly retro and kind of simple in its elements. It's very synthy. It sounds kind of like a 90s adventure game. This whole game aesthetically is very 90s point-and-click adventure game.
100%.
And the old point-and-click adventure games would lock you into this space that Golden Idol would lock you into, where you've collected all the information that you know to collect, and you're just kind of trying to grind the little bits of information you have against every other little bits of information you have to try and like turn the logic gears of this situation you're in order to like get the machine running. And you're just listening to the same like clip of 30 seconds of synth music, and you're just like, come on. You're just looking at it, just like pixel hunting.
I did turn off the music at one point when I was really stuck on this level because I was like, I'm going to snap. This is with all respect. It's very good music. It's a very good game. I got stuck on one level. I mean, that's more of the seaside section situation, but got stuck on one level, could not take it anymore. Felt like I was in an endless Jeopardy loop of suffering.
So let's talk a little bit more about the music. It's very 90s sounding. It's very upsetting. The music is never pleasant. Like,
disquieting, perhaps.
Yeah, it kind of adds to this building sense of like dread this whole game kind of lives in.
Very atmospheric.
Yeah, like it's almost always discordant. It's not usually like, it's never rhythmic. There's never like a beat going. It's usually just like these sweeping chords on these old chiptune sounding instruments. It's not quite MIDI. It sounds like chip, not MIDI. I remember there's one level that takes place at a lighthouse where I thought everything was going to be cool and chill, and it was just like this violin riff. But after about 30 seconds, the violin just starts like sliding out of tune and just becoming more and more upsetting. This game is such an assault on the senses. And it's not like you can look away, because the gameplay of this game is that you are given a scene of a death, usually a murder, not always. Sometimes it's just a death. And you have to, investigate the documents and things people are saying in this frozen moment in time and the contents of their pockets to kind of determine what exactly happened here.
The who, the what, the where, the when, the how.
And the first puzzle the first investigation you do is a scene where there's one guy pushing another guy off a cliff. And it's like, what happened here?
What could possibly be going on?
What is the crime? What were you guys' initial impressions of the first puzzle? When you were dropped into this game and you're looking at the guy pushing the other guy off a cliff, what were your thoughts?
I realized that it was sort of like a prologue, so I knew that it was going to be like more simple, just teaching you how to play the game, like collecting words from different documents and items and stuff, and then filling in.
It does kind of scream tutorial, right?
It does feel tutorial-y, but not in a bad way, just like in a getting you to understand the gameplay. And I felt like I didn't get the problem correct because it felt like it was too simple and that I was missing something that made it more complex, because it felt like even knowing it was a tutorial, I was like, could it really have been this guy of the two guys that were there who pushed the other one off the cliff?
I was a little suspicious of it too. I'm like, what am I not getting here? Was he pulling him off the cliff and missed? What happened? We should talk about your task in each level. So we say you have to figure out what's going on.
There's one main task. There's one main, who is this? What happened to them? By what means? When did it happen? Like, kind of just like description of the situation.
So it's like the game gives you a form to fill out.
Yeah.
And the form has all these blanks that says like blank, blanked, blank, because blank and blank at blank. And you have to like use nouns and verbs that you find on documents around the scene and people talking to kind of fill out these Mad Libs forms to describe the situation
Mad
ahead
Libs,
of you.
thank you.
Yeah.
I could not figure out what other 90s staple was living in me about this.
I mean, the difference between this and Mad Libs, of course, is that there's only one answer.
Yes.
The game also gives you a bunch of other like secondary optional forms that you can fill out that support the main form. Like, it will give you a document that's like every face in the scene, and it's
You
put the
identify
names.
each person.
Yeah,
so
or-
it's helpful to fill out the optional ones to help you figure out what the required ones' answers are, basically.
Exactly. I mean, I found that the actual game form would be impossible if I didn't do the optional ones first. Did you guys skip any of the optional forms, or?
Nope.
I don't think they were like necessary, but I am a completionist in every single game I've ever played. Like, gotta catch them all. So
Of course.
I was just going through all of the optional ones. I didn't even start the required one until I had completed the optional ones.
Me
Also,
too.
I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
even
even
look
try.
at it. I was just like, that's not my business. My business is filling out these 6 other fields.
So let's talk about what you guys' approach to each puzzle was. Like, did you have a systematic way to go through each puzzle, or when you were confronted with a murder scene, would you just go start guessing at the at the form?
Well, the thing that they give you that's not like making it super easy or anything, but kind of helps you with the completionist aspect is that at the edge of the screen on the right side, they have like number out of number, and that is the number of clues available in the scene to you. That's the out of. So
and when we say clues, we mean like the actual words you pull off the documents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're going through, if you have 33 out of 34, you know that there's something you've missed and you've got to go back over the scene again.
So that's the point and click element, is the first step of every puzzle, at least for me, was to go through and just click on every highlighted
It's a
object.
highlighted question mark, and then once you've fully checked it, it's a check mark, which is also fun because sometimes it stays a question mark until like you didn't know that paper in that person's pocket opened, for example, and you went out of it, and then, oh, sorry, there's another clue buried under there. I definitely just did like the very basic left to right, like up to
just
down.
scanned the whole
just
page,
every
the
single
out.
question mark, like a grid system practically.
What did you guys think of the fact that all the clues were highlighted? Like, you're never randomly clicking on the screen. You're always clicking on this little exclamation mark to open up a clue that's on the scene. What did you guys think about that?
It's hard to say exactly how I'd feel unless I was given a puzzle without them, like in this game, in this particular game. I've played other games where you don't have an indication that you're supposed to click on something to find a clue.
Right.
And they've been fine, but I think this game was like challenging enough with the filling in the blanks and puzzle solving and stuff already, that it didn't really need to have, like, it didn't need to be blank for me.
A hidden object game
Yeah,
as well?
I felt like that would have just made it more frustrating for me, if anything, because I would be like, oh, what am I missing? What didn't I click on? Like, it would have just felt like tedious rather than like focusing on the important part of the game, which was actually solving the mystery. It felt like it would have been a detraction from that, I think.
I think also the fact that what you're finding is words, not objects, means that the little clue pieces really help. If it's a hidden object game, you don't know necessarily if what you're clicking is going to be helpful. Like this book on the shelf might be useful. With this one, because it's entirely word-based, which is something I really, really liked about it personally as somebody whose brain works in writing. I think that, especially on the format that it is when it's such a small screen, like if I had to click every book in the library to figure out which word I needed and where it was, it would have become, as you said, like more tedious, more of a grind. This is a much more,
streamlined,
I guess, intuitive way to work through it.
I'd say streamlined more than intuitive because, I don't know, I felt kind of two ways about it. Like, on the one hand, this game is not easy. I feel like we say that a lot. Netflix likes hard games for learning this. They really want to give you a challenge. And this game is so challenging that, like, I feel like if I had to find all the clues, it would have been prohibitively difficult. Like, it would have been to the point where I'm like, I can't do this. I can't just tap on everything. What's the point? But on the other hand, like, it felt kind of rote just going through and collecting all the clues at the beginning. And at least for me, because of the way my brain works, like, I was on the scavenger hunt first. I have to get all the clues and get like 40 out of 40 clues in my little clue tracker, and then I'll actually start thinking about this puzzle. First, I have to collect. But I found that actually didn't really work because
you have to think while you're collecting.
You have to think while you're collecting, and then you can get trapped where you've collected all the information, but you've forgotten that one thing had an important thing in it. Yeah, like this one note in this one guy's pocket mentioned a time of day, and oh, we need that time of day, but that time of day isn't on the notes. It's just a thing in the pocket. But I'd already taken all the information. So I found that I would kind of get lost because I collected all the information ahead of time. And also, like, I don't know, I didn't really know what the gameplay point of just clicking on exclamation marks and getting clues was. I guess it's because you need to simulate that clue finding part of the game. I don't know. It seemed a little tedious, but I think the game would have been impossible without the highlights. On the PC version of the game, on the original release, you can turn the highlights off.
So that was what I was going to ask, because for me, on mobile, this makes perfect sense to have the question marks because you've got such a small screen, and if there's multiple clues in a tiny space, you might not be able to like find those perfect points to click to get those 3 different objects in the same centimeter of space on your screen. On PC, I could absolutely see this without the little highlights. I think it could work really well, but for the format that we're playing it in, I think this is like the optimal way to kind of lay that out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
and I was having fun looking at the context of everything too. So I don't think I had the same problem that you did. Because while I was collecting, I was going like, what does it mean that this person has this note in their pocket as opposed to in this pocket, et cetera, et cetera.
It took me a long time to figure out how to approach this game. Like how much of what I see on the screen is relevant. We'll talk about hints in a second. I used one hint. And
Never.
We'll get there. And the hint I used said, hey, see how there's a stool under the trapdoor in this one puzzle? Huh. That's interesting that there's a stool under the trapdoor. And it was like, okay, so the actual like layout of the scene is important. It's not just collecting all the little bits of clues. You also have to actually look at what's in front of you. I didn't know how many layers, like what layers of this game was just art and what layers of this game was gameplay.
No, all of it's gameplay. That
All
was
of
the
it.
part that I was really enjoying. I think also because I was going into it like, because it was so words heavy, I was kind of reading the scene like I was, I'm a huge Agatha Christie head and like that kind of school of mystery literature. So that very much is kind of reflected and connected in these kinds of games, I find. But the same way that you're like, oh yeah, this stool means something. Like I was reading every scene going, okay, the placement of the chairs and like what's on the chalkboard behind them.
Yeah. That is something I wondered early on, like how much of this is actually relevant and important, because you'd sometimes click on somebody's pocket, for example, and they'd have like a stiletto knife or something. And you're
Everyone
like,
has a knife.
yeah.
Everyone has a whole game. Every single
1800s,
person.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But it's just like, to me, I was like, is this actually relevant? Because it's like, it doesn't give me a keyword. It just lets me know that they have it. So for me, the first few puzzles, I wasn't quite sure like how much of it was related to the actual solving of the mystery.
There's also moments where like in some scenes, okay, everyone has a knife in their pocket. In some scenes, everyone has a knife in their pocket, but only one person has a clean knife in their pocket. You know, like it's all of these little touches that make it so engaging.
So let's talk about the hint system. This game has to avoid you going through walkthroughs, this game has a built-in hint system in the corner. You can at any time just press a button and it will help you out. But if you do press the hint button, the game begs you to reconsider. It tells you, you don't want to do this. Listen, this game is so doable. Listen, don't read the hints.
We
Guess.
promise.
Like, what did you guys
like,
think?
Did you find the things that it does is like, did you find everything in the scene? Like, have you actually looked at everything? Did you think about this? Like, it gives you hints practically before you can even click the hint button.
The pre-hint. Yeah, it gives you general hints. So, Yasmin, I know you didn't use any hints.
I'm just so huge-brained that no hints. I will
Honestly.
say I used once or twice the there's the hint system, and then there's another check if your stuff is filled out correctly system.
Yeah.
And I did use that once or twice when it would say 2 or less. So when you have all your boxes filled out on this form, the form fields, you've put in all your names, you've put in all of your adjectives like James Carlisle poisoned Yasmin Thomas with like by feeding her coffee, which she doesn't drink.
One of these days you'll drink a cup of coffee, I give you.
One of these days I'll drink a cup of coffee and it will be game over.
Yeah, that's right. Episode 10.
But so you fill this out and then it'll give you like 3 or more are wrong kind of thing, like 5 or more wrong, whatever, some like really big numbers. And then the smallest one it ever gives you is 2 or fewer fields are incorrect. And it does not go lower than that. And if you have a really long form field and 2 or fewer are incorrect, and you're just sitting there going, I can't change out every name again, I simply cannot, there is a little system where you can click a button and it shows you which specific fields are wrong.
It does?
Yeah.
I never saw that.
It gives you 3 chances to do that.
Yes.
So, and I think
So it was like it's a very like they're looking at you and going like this is a like a last resort like
well,
yeah,
that's
I
a good
use those.
That's a good
parachute
compromise.
panel. It's a very good compromise.
Because you can game that. Because I, without really meaning to, would game that thing where I'd have all the, for example, you'd have the page where you have to put everybody's first and last name under their face from the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get everybody's first and last name right, I thought, and it would say 2 or fewer answers are wrong. And so if I had a suspect of, I think this one might be wrong, I'd flip out his name with the random name I knew was wrong and see if it changed the 2 or fewer is wrong thing.
Yeah.
So by it actually identifying which space is wrong seems like just a way of acknowledging, okay, yeah, you can do this with our system, so here's a little gimme.
Yeah.
Here's a little way of gamifying
Yeah.
it.
It's more useful when you get to, this is not a spoiler, I won't go into any detail, but in some of the later levels where in the first few, like the form fields are like, person kills person by doing this. Like it might be like, I would say average like 2 to 3 sentences, like 2 sentences I feel like in the tutorial, 3-ish sentences for like the first few levels maybe, or like 2 paragraphs maybe.
Yeah. And then
Like
by the
2
end, it's like
And
more
by
like
the
5 pages.
end, the font size gets smaller. Like it genuinely. So by the end, like later puzzles, I was going, I can't swap out all the word spaces again. I can't do it.
Dude, by the end of this game, like the puzzles aren't like a drawing room. It's like a map of a country.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You've
okay,
built a world by the end of
at
this.
9
Like,
a.m.
I know,
this happened.
I know history.
You certainly get a political landscape.
Oh,
but we'll get
goodness.
there. We will get there. So, Lindsay, did you ever use the hints?
I did actually quite a bit, but it never helped me because
What do you mean?
here's what happened basically. I would fill out a scene. Usually, almost all of the hints that I used, I had filled out all of the optional puzzles and only had the final one left. And I couldn't quite put together the information I had to make it make sense because I didn't fully know people's motives or things like that. So I'd go to the hint section and be like, all right, help me out here. And it would give me a hint for, like, it would only give me options for hints of stuff that I already knew. So it didn't help me. I got stuck at like a later part than the hints were used for, basically. I think maybe one or two times I needed a hint for like something that I actually hadn't figured out yet. But every other time I used it, it only gave me information I already knew, which I liked because...
I was going to ask. Yeah. What do you think of that?
I like that the hint system doesn't just give away the answer. It just tells you what to think about.
I love hints. This is a lost art. And it's one of the things... You know, you hear a lot about, and we're not going to go into this too much, don't worry, but you hear a lot about how like the internet is getting worse. And the earliest example I ever saw about that was when a website I loved as a kid went down called the Universal Hint System. There used to be a lot of gaming blogs. Now it's actually kind of hard to find a walkthrough for games, I find. But it used to be that you could just go and get these long text walkthroughs on sites like GameFAQs or early IGN, all this. And there was a competitor to all these walkthrough sites called the Universal Hint System. And it was this weird interactive site where any game you want, it was pretty big. So let's say you want to play Myst, and you load up Myst, and you load up the Universal Hint System for Myst, and let's say you need to get the book on the dock. We'll keep it simple. Say there's a book on the dock. The hint system would say something like, have you explored the area? Have you been down to the docks? What do you see down by the docks? Have you gone near the barrel?
Rather than a walkthrough.
And the last one will be like, yeah, read the book and take the code from the book, and then bring it to the next room. And it showed that these hints could be like this much more creative and complicated system for walkthroughs, right?
Because a linear walkthrough, like, I've used them in my life, but every single time I feel like I'm capitulating. Like, I feel like I've lost by looking at it. When you give me the hints, yeah, I'm like, okay, maybe it took me longer to figure this out, but it wasn't, I got to still think it through. I still got some joy of discovery.
It helps you, instead of just giving away the answer, it really does help you figure it out for yourself with just like a little bit of direction. And
so anytime I can see hints to get through a puzzle game like that, I'm always just, it's always so exciting. I miss hints. I miss the old chill gaming internet.
I will say that the way that I like the hint system in this one is that like the hints themselves, I didn't use them, but from hearing the description, the hints part is more about discovering clues. And then they have the other like mark it correct or incorrect, which is about how you use the clues. So they've kind of got two different angles for which part of it you're having trouble with. Because in my case, I was never having trouble finding the stuff, and I was never having trouble finding the context of the stuff. I was just going there being like, why are there 25 different names? Like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. It's 3 a.m.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I did also, the problem with this game is that it's addictive and you will play it until 3 a.m. because my ability to keep track of characters past like the witching hour is not at its finest.
Lindsay, did you also find it addictive in that same way?
Yeah. So a lot of times when I'm playing our Netflix games, I have to kind of work around like my schedule and figure out where I have time for things. With this game, it was like, I didn't care. I was like, I'm making time. Like, this is the time now. We're playing this game now. And I'm going to
be 3 hours late to our coffee date. I have to play Case of the Golden Idol.
Yeah, awesome. It was really addicting. And like, it was just a really enjoyable game. And I really love investigation games like that. Like, I played almost all of the Phoenix Wright games, like all the Ace Attorney games.
God.
I loved those
How
games.
did we not bring up that as a reference point too?
I think because the mood for Phoenix Wright is so much sillier than this, which like this game is a much more serious, like intense game. Whereas Phoenix Wright, even though it does have murders, it's like goofy kind of.
Yeah. Whereas this game really does feel like a long night of the soul. It's like a deep dive into greed, and like it's so human. Like all the motivations are so real. Later in the game when you start having to find motivations for crimes, not just the crimes, it's always like, well, this guy loves this guy, but this guy also loves this guy, but you know, this guy's poor and this guy's rich and feels that this guy should give him money, but he isn't, and they're also competing, and it just becomes this whole mess.
It's very nasty, but like in a way that compels you. Not like in a way where you're like, this is celebrity gossip.
Well, it's a detective game, and I start feeling like those TV hard-boiled detectives.
It's
like,
got the noir vibe.
I see so much death.
Sure.
You don't understand people the way I understand people. You know what people are? People are greed.
I will say I was really impressed with how many different methods for murder it had. I think it checked off basically every single one. Because whenever I'm going through stuff like this in the back of my brain, I'm going, okay, like how impressive can this be? In CSI, they killed someone with an ice bullet, which is both
classic.
Completely impossible and completely stupid. But how dumb are we getting? This one just had everything. Like
And
if you
some
can think
new
of a way to
stuff.
kill somebody, they'll have done it.
And some stuff I'd never thought of. We'll get to that.
Okay, well
in the
that's just a
C-section.
problem of your imagination. Because I had thought of every method here.
Yasmin's a wizard, apparently. Okay, so let's talk about some other games that this game is in conversation with. Because, like, Phoenix Wright, totally.
Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew the game.
Yeah, there's a like investigation Nancy Drew series of games.
Did you not? There's like 20 something of them, maybe
Like
30.
old computer games.
I miss those.
No. Point and click adventure, perfectly like the right vibe. Because Nancy Drew for me is so in conversation with this because Nancy Drew is about ciphers and puzzles and like physically having to write something down in your notebook to be able to solve the thing on screen.
So speaking of which, did you guys take notes for this game? Like, I found this game got so much more fun for me when I started taking notes. I started like really loving the notes I was taking and how different they all were from each other. Did you guys take notes at all in this game?
I took notes on like my thoughts about the game, but not about like following the plot or anything. But I wish I had because I feel like if I did, I would have understood the plot a little bit more. There's just so much to it. There's so many little details and threads connecting all of the various murders and deaths together. And like you're basically like following the golden idol as it's like changing hands
And changing
throughout
lives.
the game.
When did you realize that you were following the idol as it was changing hands? Like, how long into the game did that take you?
Maybe either the puzzle with the fire, I will just say,
The
or
third
the
puzzle.
one after that, possibly somewhere around there.
It was 2 or 3 for me because I was going, okay, Case of the Golden Idol. This thing keeps showing up.
Mhm.
We're following it as it changes hands, and again, as it inspires certain actions.
Maybe a better question is, when did you realize the characters were
Mm.
coming back between scenes?
I think we get a repeat by 3.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
So it's probably 3 is well. I think you get more than one repeat by 3 is more the significant thing because I think in 2 you've got like 1 or 2 guys who the first scene has 1 dude.
I don't think either of the two guys from the first scene come back.
Not the
No.
not the cliff.
Not the clip. Oh, the dead guy in
the
the
dead
second
guy,
scene.
and then in the second scene it's his will, and you're like sick, whatever. Like it's 1 dude, and then in the third one,
You meet people from the
a
will.
bunch of the people from the will, and you're going, oh, okay, we are just in this like
Yeah.
family tree.
Mm-hmm.
So what gave away to me that there were characters maintained between the two games was a little Easter egg. I swear they did it so the old heads would know to take them seriously. The first character I noticed that's preserved between scenes is a character named Will Wright. And if you know your gaming history, you know that Will Wright invented The Sims and like SimCity and was big in Maxis. So the minute I saw Will Wright, I was like, okay, you're talking to me. You want my attention. I get it. But speaking of other games, this game is in conversation with. This game is very much in conversation with the games of Lucas Pope. Most famously, this game was very inspired by Return of the Obra Dinn, which was Lucas Pope's, what did he call it? Macabre insurance thriller.
You've got me. That's an incredible hook.
So, really quick, Return of the Obra Dinn is a very cool 1-bit video game. It's all in either
Holy shit!
it's all either pixels are on or they're off. It's
Cool.
completely 3D, but it's just black and white. It's a very, very cool game. And in Return of the Obra Dinn, you are exploring a ghost ship, one body at a time, using this magic item you have that will show you the moment of death for every body you come across.
Extremely sexy.
So you're going into the moment that they were killed, and you're trying to determine why they were killed, who they were killed by, who they are, what their role on the ship was, and what happened to the ship in general. Great game. Really, I think invented what they call detective game genre. I've been calling them investigation games. From now on, I'm going to be calling them detective games because that's what the people making them call them. Case of the Golden Idol very much enshrined this new indie love of detective games and kind of helped to blow it up. I mean, you know, Phoenix Wright, like you said, Nancy Drew, point-and-click adventure games have always existed. Since the beginning of time have existed. But this game really made a push for that. But this game is also very much, and I haven't heard as much about this game is also very much in conversation with Lucas Pope's previous game, Papers, Please.
Yes, I was just about to mention that
Yes.
actually. Papers, Please, in terms of like even the art style.
The art style.
It reminds me so much of it. And like, they have similar vibes as well. Like,
well, Papers, Please was a document thriller.
Yeah.
Right? Papers, Please has you, is political the way this game is political, and has you, again, crawling through documents, pulling off names, grinding documents together to figure out, like...
Yeah, it is very investigation-y as well, because, like, in Papers, Please, you have to, like, compare documents to see if there's any inconsistencies and make sure that the person's, like, documents are real before you let them through into the country and stuff like that. And in this game, you're comparing documents to try to find the thread that leads you to, like, what happened, basically. It's just a very similar, like, way you investigate your papers and documents and stuff.
And I feel like it has a similar view of the fragility of people's lives based on their circumstances. Like, there's such a look at, like, in Papers, Please, there'll be like a Papers, Please, you're playing as a border agent, right? And you're allowing or denying people entry to the country.
Depressing.
Very depressing. Very depressing game. Like this game is, in the same way. And Papers, Please is all about how, like, being complicit in a bad system doesn't actually give you that much power. Like, how if you're complicit in a system that is cruel, you can't do much to fix it. And if you do, the consequences come back hard on you, and just how you need to be complicit. It's an interesting game. Anyway, it's got a lot to say. But both games have this kind of top-down look at people in situations in a country. Like how we said, motivations in Return of the Golden Idol will be mundane. They'll be, I'm in debt.
Case of
What did I say?
Return of the...
Oh, yes. I do that so much. So that again talks about the connection between this and Return of the Obra Dinn. Like, it's so hard not to call this Return of the Golden Idol. And there's a sequel that is not called Return of the Golden Idol. It's called Rise of the Golden Idol, I believe. Anyway.
I will say also the thing that I really, really love about this game, it's so hard to talk about this without spoilers. Oh my God, I keep wanting to just like name drop.
Seaside.
But the thing that really appealed to me about this was like the level of intricacy and complexity that you get to. Like, you start off with like solve a murder, and by the end of it, you're like in like full scale political crisis or something, you know? Like, it takes you through the logical steps for how you get there is another thing that's really nice. It's not just like a game where it's like you get thrown into the conflict ready made. Like, you're really going from point to point. You are understanding exactly how this builds, and you're seeing both how few and how many people can get caught up in all of this stuff. I don't know. It's just very, very thoughtful in a way that I really, really, really loved.
It is a surprisingly thorough narrative with characters that have arcs and like...
And it's point and click, you know? Like, you're not expecting the depth of some of these pieces.
And we'll get a bit more into that in the Seaside. I think all we have left to talk about without spoilers is whether or not we recommend this game. Lindsay, who would you recommend The Case of the Golden Idol to?
I would recommend this game to anybody who enjoys point-and-click games, like even games like Phoenix Wright, where you're doing investigations, because this is like a whole other level of that, basically. Like, games like Phoenix Wright, they have individual cases, and each case goes into a lot of depth, and it's very complex, but this is like one big ongoing story that starts off so small and simple and leads to like political intrigue. It's like, it's just so interesting, and I would definitely recommend this game to like anybody who enjoys murder as well.
I do think that's a good disclaimer, yeah.
Enjoys the act of murder, or just like
just
the idea?
In general.
Okay.
Just in general.
Yeah. Overall.
We recommend this game to murderer.
I mean,
build your skills.
I don't know if it would be that useful in that sense. I feel like there's a lot to learn what not to do, less so what to do. But
aspiring wizards, maybe?
Absolutely.
We really want to get into that spoiler section.
Any magicians out there, you know, this is going to be a real one. No, I think for me, big draws are people who, for sure, like the point and click, the mystery. My best friend has been obsessed with the Nancy Drews. Like, she's why I played them as a kid. So I'm going to be like directly linking her to this as soon as she gets a phone that is more recent than about 8 years. But I think like the biggest thing for me with this was kind of that political intrigue and that building of story. So frankly, anybody who has been really into like, I guess it kind of works for any of the like big fantasy shows of the last couple of years. Like, I feel like if you're a Game of Thrones fan, this game is going to kind of connect. Like, it's got the dark tone, it's got the murder, it's got some magic, you know, like it's got kind of everything that like the cultural wave has been on for the past couple of years. So couple years, like a decade. I'm old as hell. But yeah, that's the general vibe is like, if you like murder and if you like mystery and if you like building things. Jamie, same energies?
Yeah, I mean, this is a game I recommend to anyone who wants to play a game. Like, that sounds general, but it's so egalitarian in its difficulty. Like, anybody could try this. Anybody could get the most out of this. And this game is so well realized. Like, the way it tells you, you'll never have to guess. And please don't use the hints, but here they are if you want them. I just feel that, I don't know, anybody who is interested in a mystery game, who likes stretching their brain, give this a try. Give this a try.
Definitely stretching your brain for sure. Like if you like thinking a lot while you play, this is a game for you.
It's also like really good at bringing you back to exactly where you left off. Like it shows you exactly, if you leave the game in the middle of clicking on hints, it shows you exactly which ones you've already clicked on in that scene. Like it'll save your progress right down to the exact place you were at. It will have things like words filled in that you put in previously if you have filled something out. Exactly. So like it's so easy to just pick up and play and like just play like a few minutes of trying to figure out what's going on, and like it's just very accessible.
Can't recommend this game enough.
For real.
With that said, if you haven't tried it, we heartily recommend that you give The Case of the Golden Idol a try. And if you have beaten it, well, we got a little bit more to talk about. But first, let's head over to the B-side and talk about some other recommendations. All right, so now we're going to talk about some other recommendations we had this week in case Golden Idol was just too much of a head-scratcher. Let's start with Yasmin. Yasmin, what did you do this week?
This week I watched a wonderful film in a park, sitting on a blanket with a huge, I guess it's inflatable movie screen. If you haven't heard of the Toronto Outdoor Picture Show and you are in Toronto, you should be doing that right now.
That's how I saw Before Sunset.
Oh my God. Did they screen? They would have to screen all three.
No, I think they were doing it like over the course of the month, but I only saw Before Sunset.
Gotcha. So I saw Inside Man, Spike Lee's 2006 heist film. I highly recommend it because it is both very funny and very like, I watched Ocean's 11 at a very formative age, so I love any movie that thinks it is hot shit, tells you it is hot shit, and proceeds to show you in flashbacks why it is hot shit.
Oh, it's one of those.
They got everything. Also, it's just like the most insane collection of dudes. Like, you're like, oh, Denzel. Oh, Clive Owen. Oh, Jodie Foster. Oh, Christopher Plummer. Oh, Willem Dafoe as like a totally normal guy and not even a major character. Oh, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Whoa.
Yeah.
In the 90s?
Yeah. Sorry, 2006.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I rescind that.
Yeah.
But like, it's just James Ranson's in there. Like, you just, every 3 seconds, someone shows up on screen and you pause it for a second and go, where do I know them from? IMDb. So like, good features, very funny. I guess funny keeps coming up for me because I had a great time, but I guess objectively not super funny. Like, they do a good job of being like, here's like references to various inequalities and how unethical like rich people are, and how it's also a very like social commentary kind of film in a lot of interesting ways.
I actually don't know much about Inside Man. What's the premise?
Okay, like the letterbox description. When an armed masked gang enter a Manhattan bank, lock the doors, and take hostages, the detective assigned to effect the release enters negotiation preoccupied with corruption charges he is facing.
Oh, I have an idea what the twist is.
I don't think it's what you're thinking of.
Okay.
It's the other fun thing. But it's got like everybody from like beat cop to like the mayor of the city gets involved in this case, comes together at some point. It does a really good job of just kind of showing like every facet, like the political facet of a big crime as well. Like, it's a bank getting robbed. The head of the bank shows up to like protect his own interests. Like, just all of these people kind of getting involved and like muddying the waters. Also, like, so have you seen Money Heist?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Money Heist stole from this.
In what way?
I have seen Money Heist. Well, I mean, I guess it's a twist that I can't give away. But Money Heist stole one of the things that I thought was so clever when I watched Money Heist. I'm now like, you watched Inside Man by Spike Lee from 2006. Like, so I have to give them slightly less credit. But really good bank robbery conceit. Really good little twists.
How does it fall in the Spike Lee pantheon for you?
Oh, that's hard. I mean, okay, the thing about this is that this is a Spike Lee popcorn movie. Like, it's Spike Lee, so he's still got the hot shit thing. He's still got the social commentary in there. Like I said, this is a much more, like, aware of its politics cop movie than I've ever seen.
Cool.
Like, it talks racism multiple times.
In 2006?
In 2006.
How does it do?
frankly pretty good. Like, I was like so true when various characters were talking, and I was like, damn.
We're speaking in the most vagaries. It did good. I was like, so true.
Well, okay. Not even really a spoiler. A guy gets released who is a hostage, but they don't know if he's a hostage or one of the, like, he gets shoved into the bank. They don't know if he's a hostage or one of the bank robbers. He's Sikh. He's wearing a turban. The cops who are grabbing him, like, they get the like costume sort of thing off him, and they're like, oh shit, it's an Arab, and all draw their guns immediately when before they were willing to assume he was a hostage. They take his turban off, which I don't know if you know anything about like Sikhism, but like, don't fucking do that.
Sure.
That's not cool.
I can imagine.
And then he's being interrogated by the negotiators and Willem Dafoe in a little like diner that the cops have kind of sequestered afterwards. And he's like talking about how like since 9/11, like he can't go to the fucking airport. He can't do this. Like when he's the victim of a crime, they're looking at him, all of this different shit. Like you get moments like that in what is in anybody else's hands, just kind of a linear heist.
Cool.
So like really interesting, lots of pieces, lots of moving pieces.
Is it ever clarified that Sikhs aren't Arabs?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just checking. I just felt like we should say that.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, they immediately go, oh, shit, it's an Arab. And the dude is immediately like, are you fucking kidding? Like, he goes from, like, being kind of scared from having been part of a bank robbery, like, and held hostage for hours to, like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm Sikh. It's the you can see the turban. What is wrong with you people? So, like, just fun overall. Highly recommend. It's definitely, like, a popcorn movie, but with gravitas, let's say.
I've been meaning to watch it. Like, I mean, I find Spike Lee a little hit or miss. I don't like him so much recently. But I mean, Do the Right Thing is so
Do the Right Thing is
so
like
great.
Foundational.
Yeah. So I'll always give him a try.
Lindsay, we were discussing this before. You're into something I have tangential knowledge of this week.
Yes, that's true. So this week I have been watching an anime, Haikyu, which is an anime about volleyball and teamwork and friendship and rivalry and
doing your very best.
Doing your best and just like improving bit by bit. It's a really encouraging anime, and so I should clarify that I actively disliked volleyball before I started watching this anime. It wasn't my idea to watch it. My boyfriend was like feeling very like inspired about the idea of working towards your goals and like
it's a perseverance story for
having
sure.
The ball like hanging over your head and like it just being like frozen in midair in time and doing like a successful spike, and just he was talking about how like amazing it is and stuff, and so I'm like, all right, I'll watch this anime with you. And we started watching it, and I didn't have a problem with the concept of it. Like, I'll watch an anime about something that I don't actually have any interest in, as long as it's a good story and like there's good character development and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I've been enjoying it a lot. Like, I feel like I'm a sports fan now. I don't know what it is. I feel like I even like volleyball now, even though I used to hate it, which mainly because it's kind of painful to play, at least for me, because I have very like noodly forearms. I think you really need some muscle on your arms to like have it not hurt when you're receiving the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't really like it before, and now I'm like, I kind of like the idea of sports. I like the strategy of it. I was explaining this to my boyfriend before, that I finally understand sports now. Like, it's not just about the athleticism. It's also about the strategy. And like, it almost is like a video game where the coach is the player and they assemble their little characters for their team. And like, you build them up with certain stats to
you
be
give
good
them
at different
debuffs, you give them
and like stuff like that. And it's such a nerdy way to look at it, but it's so strategy heavy that in a way I had never thought about before. And now I'm like, I need to pick a sport to become a fan of and start following it.
Sounds easy to become a coach of a sport.
Maybe.
Start working with like, I think the most bloodthirsty range you could work with is probably like the 8 to 12 kind of range. If you've ever seen their soccer games, they're out for blood. So if you really want competitors as a coach, if you want some,
I'll assemble my team of children.
Exactly.
But yeah, so this show, it really does bring out this enjoyment of sports in people that don't even need to be into sports. Like, it's just...
I like need, as if there's like God being like, well, you have to care. You're never going to play a sport. But
I'm not someone who needs to be into sports. So are you going to go out and play volleyball?
I want to watch like a real match of volleyball and see if I can... understand and spot things that I learned from the anime. I don't know if I'm athletic enough at this time to like really go play. Like I really need to put on more muscle. I'm just like a toothpick right now.
Well, we're down by the beach. We could go
I
after
know
the
we should
Beach
try
volleyball's
it.
big scary though. That's real muscle shit.
Actually, I feel like it does require a lot of muscle because it's a lot harder to run in
And
the
jump.
sand. But like if you're diving for the ball or something, imagine like just brushing against the sand versus like an actual like gymnasium floor. Like that sounds way more painful. So now I know way more about volleyball than I ever expected to or ever needed to. But I don't know. I enjoy it. And I think I would recommend this to anybody. You don't have to be into sports. Just as long as you like character development and you like getting excited for things that you didn't think that you would care at all about. Like,
and friendship.
yeah, it is. It's about friendship. It's about teamwork. It's about the rivalry between teams and like encouraging each other to do your best. And it's really nice. It's a nice anime. So, Jamie, what's your B-side recommendation?
Oh man, okay, so my recommendation is going to give you none of those feelings of teamwork and warm and fuzzy feelings. I want to talk about a game called Prey. This is the 2017...
With an A or an E?
With an E.
All right.
This is the 2017 Prey, not the 2006 Prey, which did feature a Judas Priest song in it, so go out and play it for that reason. But
now I know how you found this in the first place.
100%. But no, Prey. 2017 is a first-person immersive sim game. So it's like a first-person shooter / RPG in which you wake up on a space station that's been taken over by monsters and the entire crew has been killed. And
Ooh.
what you have to do is sneak your way through the space station to try and, I guess you're trying to get off it. But over the course of the game, as you learn about the residents of this space station, as you gain knowledge about it, you're also gaining power, and you start gaining the abilities of the monsters as well as just normal FPS abilities. It's one of those games with a like a weapon wheel, you know, where you press Y to pick up your
Oh, I love
to open
that.
your abilities. Yeah. So you press Y and you get an ability wheel, and then as the course of the game goes on, by about the halfway point, the wheel breaks and
What?
just becomes a
Wow.
spiral as your powers get more and more crazy, and you just get so many of them you can't even fit them on the wheel anymore.
Oh, that's awesome.
Over the course of this game, you are gaining power and influence over the station to where you're fixing the station in parts. Like you're going down to the engine room and you're like, oh man, the engines on the station, well, I guess stations don't have engines. Whatever, the power plant on the station isn't working. I'll have to go and fix the power plant. Oh, but the only access to the power plant is outside, so I have to go outside of the station and back in. As you're fixing the station and turning it onto your side against the monsters, it's a very satisfying power curve. But the thing that's so great about Prey, besides the immersive sim elements, is how deeply written all the flavor and the lore of it is. It's one of those games where, like I said, all the denizens of the space station are dead, but there's a limited number of them, and there's a directory of them, and there's like 250 crew members, and they each have first names and last names and quarters and jobs,
Oh my gosh.
email accounts, personalities.
Email accounts too. Like you're not just going through documents, you're going through
You're going through everyone's personal computer, you're finding their workstation, you can find out where they live. Like, you start learning about the relationships between all these people on the station. Like, you find out that like there's this D&D game going on, and you can find all the members of the D&D
Oh
game
my
and find all their
gosh.
stories.
That's
Sounds really
heartbreaking.
immersive.
It's it's so immersive, and it's heartbreaking because like, yeah, you'll find the bodies of these people and you'll be like, oh, that's Andrea. Oh, Andrea didn't make it. Andrea died in this cafeteria. Oh, you know, I remember, oh, Andrea was such a nice person. She was so,
Oh my gosh.
it's a beautiful, beautiful game. And it's one of those games where like, again, the writing is beautiful and the gameplay element of it matches the story so well that like, it's just one of those games where both parts worked, you know? And it really was something special. It got overlooked a lot because it was so like BioShock, which is ironic because it's a spiritual sequel to System Shock, and BioShock was also a spiritual successor to System Shock. But it's really a special game. It's fantastic. A lot of attention was given to its DLC called Moon Crash, which was kind of like a roguelike version of the game. It takes place on the moon, not on the space station, where you play as one of 5 people and you play as 5 of 5 people. And in sequence, you have to get each one of them off the moon. without using up all the resources so that the other 5 can like
Oh, this is like that advanced version of the like if I have a goat and my like crops and a wolf and I have to get them all across the river.
Yeah, on
It's
the
more
boat.
like if I was 5 guys hidden in 5 dumpsters in a room full of wolves and there was 8 bullets in that room, how would I get out? How would I
Okay,
get all 5
awesome,
people out without
awesome.
using up all the bullets? Yeah. Fantastic video game. I really highly recommend it. Arcane Austin was great. If you worked for Arcane Austin and you can hear this, thank you. I loved Prey, and I'm sorry for how you've been treated. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to do it for the majority of our podcast. We're going to go on to our secret seaside.
But wait, there's more.
But before we do that, we should talk about next week. So next week we're going to play Katana Zero. And Lindsay's going to read us the description of Katana Zero. But before she does, Yasmin, why don't you tell the listener how they can get in contact with us?
So we are out there in the world. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Netflix Gaming Club. Or if you would prefer a more intimate form of connection, you can email us at nfx@bigbad.ca.
Okay, so Lindsay, why don't you read us Netflix's description of Katana Zero?
Kill your enemies or face instant death. Slow down time as you slash and dash through a dystopian city to unravel past secrets in this retro adventure.
So,
There's nothing chill about that whatsoever.
no break from the morbidity quite yet. Okay, well, I'm really looking forward to Katana Zero. I played it a few years ago, and I remember the systems in that game are so well thought out. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that. But we're not done quite yet. If you played Golden Idol, if you beat Golden Idol, with the exception of the DLCs, we suggest that you continue on, listen to our thoughts, our full spoilery thoughts about the game. But if you didn't play Golden Idol, this is where we suggest you leave us for the week. Go give it a try and come back and listen to the C-section. We're really excited.
C-section.
Seaside, like a vacation.
Yeah.
Okay, still here? So when did you realize that Lazarus was Edmund Cloudsley?
Tragically, not until the game
Yeah.
told me.
The very end when they tell us.
Like in the epilogue?
Yeah.
No, like in 11, I was like, wait, fuck, who do we know?
But he was in love with
But he was in love with, oh, shit. Like, it was 11 where I was like, I've been a fool all along.
Dude, I feel like I figured it out at the best moment. I figured it out a split second before I needed to use the information. It was after I found that Lazarus was dead in the last main puzzle.
Yep.
Because there are like a bunch of dead guys in helmets, and it's like, well, we have a bunch of dead guys, we don't know who it is, so that's probably his guards or whatever. Like Lazarus would have an entourage, whatever. I'm so smart, don't worry about it. But it was when I saw that he had the Edmund Cloudsley book.
Yes.
And then I was like, why does Lazarus have Edmund Cloudsley book? Whatever happened to Edmund Cloudsley? I'd been thinking about that for a while because they tell you he's dead, but you see in the scene. Well, they show you the scene where he's supposed to die, and he's just hiding in a box.
And they do, everyone else who dies, you see it.
Everyone.
I did wonder where he went after that, but I kind of didn't question it because we got like the death, like confirmation from other characters immediately. So I was like, I guess they just didn't show us this one death for whatever reason.
Yeah, I just trusted the game to be not lying to me.
Well, the second
Foolishness.
the second I saw Edmund Cloudsley's book in Lazarus' safe. And,
that was it.
And then I remembered, oh, he's got the golden idol and he can suck life out of people.
Yup.
Oh, and they both have purple hair. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Edmund Cloudsley. I get it now. I get it. I'm so smart.
I got it when they gave us the like Batley Richardson situation. Like as soon as Mary comes back, I was like, wait, but you. Oh no, Lazarus Hurst has been Edmund Cloudsley all along and also is still a horny old man.
Oh, hey man, God bless Edmund Cloudsley. Like fuck the cult. Like as Edmund Cloudsley was like owning the cult and taking it over, I was kind of like, hell yeah, fuck these guys.
For me, like, so here's what I didn't get about it going through and like why it took me until they actually said, oh, by the way, in the
epilogue's fantastic also.
Yeah, it is.
Love the epilogue.
It is fantastic.
Just every little piece that you were missing along the way, they give you. It just
makes sense. Suddenly.
Everything.
So what happened was there's a scene in which, what's his name? Walter Keane and his like band of thugs come in.
Yes.
And in that scene,
that's when Edmund Cloudsley dies.
He almost kills David Goran in that
almost.
scene.
I thought David Goran was dead the first time I played that.
Yeah, he was injured. And then in the next scene, there was like stuff you had to fill in that implied that David Goren and Walter Keane were suddenly working together, and that they were disguising themselves to like get into the or at least David Goren was to infiltrate the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how I was supposed to understand that they were suddenly working together. Like, it felt like there was a disconnect there that I didn't quite understand. And that made me lose kind of the thread of what was happening throughout the latter half of the game.
And then the epilogue gives you...
The epilogue made it
is the missing scene.
Sense.
It's the scene between the last time you see them and and the order starts coming.
But for me, because of that, and because I wasn't writing down like story notes along the way, I wasn't really following the thread anymore at that point.
I wasn't really following the thread of the story until Lazarus took over the Brotherhood. In the puzzle where you're at the lighthouse or whatever, and the other guy tries to redo his and it becomes the Griffin Reborn.
Yeah.
Got him. I don't know. Every time Lazarus outsmarted somebody, I was just like, ha, 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 ha. Like, clearly he's bad. His name is Lazarus. Like, he's not going to be a good guy. He's got a Z in his name.
No, Lazarus is a perfectly... Lazarus is just a joke about reincarnation.
Yeah,
that's why I got it.
Oh, that's why I got... Yeah.
But no, he's not a bad guy. Don't slag him.
Oh, you think the name Lazarus Hearst sounds like a good guy to you?
I mean, he kind of is, like, objectively a bad guy.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Oh, no, I just mean like Lazarus biblically.
Oh,
like
okay.
he's just a dude. There's nothing wrong with him.
That was the other part that made it off. I should say, I would not have figured it out if his name wasn't Lazarus.
Yes. They do give you like, I mean, for him, it's just implied that like, since he's such a nasty old man, for him, it's a little like Easter egg of his own. Like, he's pulling the rug out from under them. His name is Lazarus. How haven't they figured it out? He.
So this story is the story of Edmund Cloudsley stealing the golden idol and then
taking over the country
and then dying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dying in a most... I really liked that he dies in like the most stupid and embarrassing way.
And talk about Game of Thrones. It's the most Game of Thrones ending ever where like he makes one stupid move and it kills him immediately.
And gone. Just cannon to the chest. I loved the story of this. I loved how it built. I was following the story the whole way through. Like, every time I got something, I might go back to the previous one and go, oh, like, I see how we got from here to here. I was doing a lot of back and forth. Like, when I solved one puzzle, I might go back one or two if I remembered when that character had been referenced and, like, pull in, like, what I had known about them before. I was kind of building, like, an encyclopedia of this game throughout it.
It wasn't until one of the last puzzles where it gives you the ability to go back through all the puzzles previously that I started actually looking at older puzzles.
I was doing it the whole way through. No, oh my God, you solved it. Why is it cheating?
I don't know. It's like, I don't want to... I have to find the guy's name fresh in this puzzle. I can't go back and find Oberyn Geller again.
I said once I solved it. Like, when I was solving puzzle 6, I wasn't opening up puzzle 5 before I had solved puzzle 6. I'm saying after I solved a puzzle... if I remembered a name or something, like if I solved 6 and I went, oh, somebody's from 4, I would go back to 4 and check, like...
I should have done that.
I was so mentally drained after I finished each puzzle, I would close the game and be like,
yeah.
Like, I remember one time I finished a puzzle and then I opened the next one and it shows you, it's like the 12 tribes of Lemuria and they each have a different symbol. And I saw that and I'm like, I'm
going to bed.
I'm not learning this. And then it turns out you didn't actually have to learn the 12 tribes. It was just like a thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a clue, but...
So let's talk about that. What were you guys' favorite puzzles?
Favorite, most fun, number 10, absolutely.
That's the trial?
That is the trial. Yes. That is the math.
That was a good one.
Loved that one.
I hate math, and I still consider that one of the top puzzles.
I just liked learning the like logical kind of reasoning behind this cult. Like, we've reached a point where there's a court system, there's an assigned number of demerits, like all of this stuff. I liked that kind of like fleshing out of their
it really gives you an idea,
little order.
Like a look into their mind to see what's important to them and what's not.
Well, yeah, the fact
that
truth is fucking one demerit. I was like, oh, okay.
That's crazy.
Like, I guess because, you know, all of the higher ups would have to suck out years and years of their lives if lying mattered.
Well, it's got so much to say about the Catholic Church and how it's like inherently built to abuse the young in order to enrich the old. Like, it's, God, this game has so much to say.
Yeah. Oh my God. When they revealed in the epilogue that the order's like way of punishing people with the demerits was like to suck out their life and like give it to the people with better.
Well, they reveal that in level 10.
They reveal the sucking out their life in level 10. That's how Gideon Bell...
but I mean, like, when they talk about implementing that beyond the Brotherhood and making it just be like in the country, it's like as a punishment.
Crazy.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Well, the story just goes to places. Like, it goes so far.
I think that's also why it works so well, because you start off and you're like, simple murder mystery. And then they're like,
pushing a guy off a cliff.
We can drain people's life forces and like take this to whole new levels.
Well, let's look at the scale. Like, it starts with the guy pushing the guy off the cliff, and then it ends with a
civil war.
Yeah, with an attempted coup, and like I think it's a successful coup. That was weird. In the end, they were called the Resistance or something like that.
The Order, maybe.
They were like the dissidents.
The Order Party?
They were the Order Party.
The
but they were
Insurgents?
Also, the Insurgents, that's right. But they were also the leading party, so I didn't understand how they were... Anyway, it's fine.
I think it's because the king didn't like recognize their power or something.
They were fighting against the king because he refused to recognize them. Like, they'd taken over basically the whole country, but he didn't acknowledge them as legitimate. And then Lazarus gets his ass blasted away, so
by a full
the
cannon.
king wins by default.
You never see the king.
No, you don't.
He's
Never
not,
really
I
comes
mean,
into
he's
it.
not, like, important, except that he has the final authority.
I will say the thing I liked the most about the demerit trial puzzle was the moment where after, I think it's meant to be fun. I think it's meant to be like, oh, these people did bad things, we're getting them, doing all the little math and figuring out their sentences. And then it was after I figured out the sentences that I realized what the sentences were, and that I was like sucking people's life away. And I just felt kind of bad for liking it so much.
Yeah.
I was having fun doing the adding, but I also kept being like, oh shit, these numbers are getting steep. Oh,
Yeah.
dear Lord. And like,
And you said his name a second ago. Who's the...
Gideon Bell
It's so...
gets 88 years sucked out of him.
He's a child.
Because he cried.
Because that was, oh my God, reading his list of why he was getting demerits was just me being like a head in hands, like, I'm gonna get you out of there, Gideon. I'm gonna get you out
Yeah,
of there.
not so much.
Oh man.
So if those were your favorite puzzles, like in terms of the actual like gameplay, did you guys have any favorite visual favorite puzzles that you enjoyed the scene of the most, like that looked the nicest to you or most
Oh.
interesting?
The DLC, I don't know if you guys played the DLC, but the extra 2 campaigns have some really pretty puzzles. In the end, you're like, the second DLC takes place entirely on this island, and you like have the first puzzle you have. I only know the first puzzle because I didn't beat it, but you have the entire island, and it's like morning, noon, and night, and you have to like, yeah.
Cool. I didn't play the little side game things, the DLC, but my favorite puzzle visually was probably the one with the spontaneous combustion, just because the way the fire was animated was like
So
absolutely
brutal.
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous and it's brutal as well, but like the way it's animated looks so different from a stereotypical like person on fire. It almost is like these little tendrils of fire coming out of him, and when you click on him to get the close up, there's like flames shooting out of his eyes and mouth or something, and I don't know, it's just really visually
so
stunning.
Good. It's so good.
Striking, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. That was when I wrote in my notes, this game is upsetting. That was like the first time I wrote that. I can take the guy going off the cliff.
Aesthetically, I think my favorite was probably 7, where they're all up in the Brotherhood's
With the masks?
base of operations. Like, I loved the
Yeah.
masks.
That was
I
one of my
loved the
favorite
like
puzzle
dungeon.
puzzles.
I loved their like stained glass window situation.
Mm-hmm.
That was just like, I like world building in general, but I like weird little orders and cults in this. I mean, I guess in real life too, they're interesting. Maybe like is a strong word there.
You're
but
interested in.
they intrigue me. So in this case, like getting to see, because we've had them hinted and we've had them show up and fuck shit up, but we haven't seen what they're up to. And then getting the full reveal in that one was just so satisfying and so visually interesting. Like, why they're such little freaks? Those masks. What the
What
hell?
were they called? Like the Beastmaster?
The Proud Beasts, the water snakes,
Dark Hands.
and the
The
Dark,
Dark
Hands.
Hands, yes. Ah,
Like the range, first of all.
what a great game. I cannot wait for the sequel,
100%.
The
I'm,
Rise of
like,
the Golden Idol.
I'm dreaming of it already because this is just so much fun to build out. And also, Rise of the Golden Idol means we're going to come back to this. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep living in this world. I can't wait to see where else it goes.
It takes place in the 70s, I believe. So
Oh,
that'll be
no
interesting.
shit.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if the sequel will have as many spelling mistakes as this one.
Yeah.
Okay, get him.
So this game was a Latvian development, and I don't know anything about Latvia, but I feel like it shows. I don't know.
I feel like the typos are more where it shows.
Yeah.
Like, I just think they need one, like, English proofreader, copy editor, something. All of the phrasing was fine. The names are, like, both fine, and knowing it's Latvian actually now makes the names
Makes the
even
names make
funnier because
sense,
I'm like, oh, it's like those, the Japanese baseball game where they
Yes.
generate the list of
Yes.
American
Yes.
names. Like this is the same,
That,
but
like,
for
sound
England,
English, but are slightly
I
off.
wish I could remember one of
Exactly.
those names right now.
it's
Oh,
like
wow.
Jeff McMichaels or something like that. Sleeve McDyckles.
Sleeve
There was a
McDyckle.
sleeve. There was a sleeve.
There is a
for
sleeve,
sure.
yeah.
But like knowing it's Latvian makes those names hit so much like better right now. But definitely just like typos galore.
David
Yeah.
Goron. That seems like a Latvian dude. I love David Goron. Sorry, we're wrapping up, but man, that character was so interesting. He had such an arc, like the right-hand man of Edmund Cloudsley.
And he starts off as just like, you need a guy of ill repute. I'm gonna be a guy of ill repute. Like you walk into a shady bar and this guy is there, and you're like, hey, great. And then the way he rises through the ranks, what he's willing to do for power, like
Well, kind of like I was talking about in my B-side, this is one of those games where like you'll see a dead guy and you'll know who he is.
Yes.
And you'll be like, oh my God, they
how
killed
did
David
it happen?
Goron.
Yeah.
Damn, I thought he would live forever.
Yeah.
Like, you just, I don't know. I love a game where you actually feel the loss of characters and where that actually
Yeah.
achieves that.
It
Mhm.
feels like watching an entire season of a show just condensed
Yes,
into like
it
these
really
small
does.
chapters.
Absolutely.
What a wonderful game. Like, you usually aren't able to speak so effusively about both a game's plot and its gameplay. And like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like this game really is a special game. Maybe
Yeah.
all detective games are special games.
So we've talked about difficulty at length. Which puzzle was the hardest for you to figure out?
The last one.
The last one for me too.
Not the epilogue, but the
11?
death of everybody. And yeah.
The Civil War. Yeah.
Oh
Okay,
my
fair.
God.
Somebody told me that was an easy one, and I was like, "Oh,
I meant
no.
the last one. I meant the one
Oh,
after
the
that. The
epilogue?
epilogue. Yeah.
Because
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Jamie said that, and I was like, I don't know what they're talking about.
So
Yeah.
how did you go about solving it? Like for me, it was that I started organizing all the information by time.
Mhm.
I started being like, okay, so I know this happened at 11 a.m. I know this happened before that. And so I started this is one of the puzzles where you had 3 separate forms to fill out to solve the puzzle.
4 of them, I think.
4 of them, yeah. And the first 3 separated everything by time. And that kind of gave me the clue to do it.
Mhm.
And the 4th was just like, all right, what happened all day?
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started organizing things by time. Before that, it was just impossible. It was like, I don't know who anybody is. Everybody's like a blackened corpse. That everyone's wearing a mask.
So my strategy was I was having trouble following the timeline because people would say things like, let's meet before noon, but then that ended up being the afternoon one, I think, or something like that. And so I was having trouble with that. So I figured it out by looking at the each of the blanks that we were supposed to fill out, figuring out what made grammatic sense in terms of the adjective.
Yeah.
That really helped
the
me.
verbs.
I would do
Yeah.
that. Does that count as guessing? That always felt like the guessing they told us not to do.
It's deduction.
Yeah.
It's deduction.
A detective game.
Mhm.
No,
Once you
100%.
remove the
the
impossible.
verbs were the most helpful part in the final puzzle for sure.
Speaking of the final puzzle, I did encounter something weird that I'm curious if you guys encountered, like a glitch maybe in the final puzzle and the epilogue. So for the final puzzle, of the 4 required word puzzles that you had to solve, I solved number 3 first, and
Okay.
then it immediately showed me the like, congrats, you solved the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I got that too.
Yeah,
And,
that
like,
was a tiny like
It
game
also
dev mistake.
it also explained, like when they give you a summary of what, like a
It
more
tells
detailed
you
summary of
everything.
what happened,
Yeah.
it told me the summary of a different one that I hadn't completed yet.
Oh no!
So I was like, oh, and I clicked away from it a little bit too quickly to remember everything that it told
Mhm.
me. So I was still like doing a little bit of like tweaking and guesswork, like trying to figure out exactly what fit where, but it helped me solve one of the other puzzles. And the
Aw.
epilogue did the same thing where after completing the second, like number 2, I had only completed number 2 of the 3 epilogue word puzzles. And it was like,
thanks for playing the
thanks
game.
for playing. Yeah. But I am very proud that on puzzle number 1 and number 3 of the epilogue, I got them first try, like no
Hell yeah.
mistakes whatsoever.
Does applause work on Mike?
Yeah, we're gonna like quadruple that in post.
I have a different answer for which one took me the longest.
Please.
Because the last one, I mean, it is the last. The epilogue's not last. The epilogue is a separate entity entirely. Like, definitely complicated in lots of pieces and stuff. Number 5, the dinner party, took me
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
long because I kept rereading every single thing. It took me so long to figure out which letter was the cipher.
Yes.
I was just going in circles for so long. I really liked it ultimately, and I think that one had one of my favorite like optional puzzles to fill out, where you figure out where everybody's sleeping and where everyone lives. I really, really liked that.
I love that.
But my God, figuring out which letter was a secret coded message to kill somebody was like, that took so much brain power. And then when I figured it out, I was like, I'm an idiot.
Well,
But
I found that one very quickly because it was just worded very differently.
Weirdly?
It was worded weirdly, so I was immediately like, this is the one. But
I've never felt so slow, genuinely. Because once I got it, yeah, you're right. It's worded in a weird way. It should have tweaked me somehow, but nothing.
That level introduces my favorite little freak in this entire game. What's his name?
Little Pip
Little
or
Pip.
something like that?
Little Pip, whatever
Pip.
his name is, little Dickensian creep. What the hell was that guy's deal?
I don't know.
Where'd he go? He like disappears. I hope he comes back. I hope he's got the golden idol in the sequel.
I suppose he could be keeping his life alive for that long.
I'd use bugs. I'd like sap the life out of ants and just like get like a day at a time. You know, that would just be my morning ritual.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually.
I'm
But
just
does
saying,
it work
if I
on
had the
anything
golden
except
items-
You
does
could
it work on anything except humans? Because we've only seen
it worked on the apple. That's how they were testing it.
Fuck, you're right.
It worked on the apple.
You can use apple, but then that's kind of a waste of food though.
Yeah, you're right. We should.
Ants for sure. Clear up any infestation. You have the ultimate pest control business, so you can make money on the side, and you've got infinite life.
Pest control. We're taking the ant's life one at a time, just slowly getting younger. You walk out, you're like 5 years old. All right. Well, I guess that will do it for the case of the Golden Idol. For now, we will be back when the Golden Idol the Golden Idol will return in Rise of the Golden Idol, and
It will arise again. How's
there
that?
you go. And so will we. But until then, goodbye.
Fare thee well.
It's weird. We already did the
See ya.
outro. Well, just to remind everybody, next week we'll be playing Katana Zero. So that'll be a different vibe. About the same amount of killing. All right, we'll see you then.
The Netflix Gaming Club is produced by Big Bad Audio and engineered by Andrew Blythe. The show is hosted by Lindsay Burak, James Carlisle, and myself, Yasmin Thomas. We'd like to thank the High Loves for the use of our theme song, Sure of It. You can check them out wherever you listen to music. As always, if you like what you hear and want to help us grow, please rate us on Apple or Spotify. The higher the better. Or, if you're not into public displays of affection, you can always tell a friend or find someone to play these games with, and we'll be here for you guys after you do. Special thanks to Rob Schulte, Wendy Pretty, and the Netflix Gamers Discord community.